So for some reason, I am still fascinated and obsessed with this old Pokemon mobile game called Pokemon Quest. If you don't know about Pokemon Quest, it's this game where instead of catching Pokemon, you send out your Pokemon on these adventures. They bring back ingredients. You can make pots of soup or stews or whatever, and they will bring and attract new Pokemon to your village, town, base, island. It's something, right? You end up beating deeper levels and moving on. It's a standard kind of RPG, and I like it probably way more than it deserves. But after playing it for so many years and making so many videos on it, I decided to challenge myself. So here's the challenge. I tried to beat the entire game using only shiny Pokemon. And there's a whole bunch of problems with this that we'll get into, but I'm just going to start from the beginning. So I created the new account. Usually I choose Bulbasaur. He's my favorite, and he has been since the first time I saw Pokemon Red version in the back of my cousin's minivan. But today I decided to choose Pikachu instead, and it didn't matter because I was going to have to throw away the Pikachu anyways. If I was doing this on a Game Boy game, I probably would have just reloaded constantly over and over again until I got a shiny starter. But in this game, that's a little bit difficult to do, so what I decided to do was keep using him until I got the first shiny Pokemon, and then that would be my new starter Pokemon. So what I had to do first was to get through the tutorial where I had to beat a Meowth, then I have to make this first pot of stew that comes with a Pidgey and a Rattata. There's one mission early on that will force you to use all three of these Pokemon, but after that you can do whatever you want. And I decided I'm only allowed to use the first level for training and for recruiting new Pokemon. This poses some problems because it kind of has a limited amount of ingredients in it, but in the beginning that's not too important. My first real pot of stew is the gray porridge. It gives me a Nidoran girl, not shiny. And this is this is where it starts to repeat itself. I end up grinding out, I don't know, probably over 100 different pots of stew before I end up getting my first shiny. One of the issues I was running into, though, was that I would constantly be running out of ingredients. I would end up buying the Flareon, Vaporeon, and Jolteon cushions to give me bonus multipliers on ingredients of those types. So Flareon would give you more red ingredients, Vaporeon gives you more blue ingredients, etc. Another problem that I would have is I was running out of box space constantly, both for the stones, which are sort of your equip items, and for Pokemon. Now, normally what you would do is you would spend some of your, whatever they're called, daily points here on unlocking more bag space or more space for Pokemon, but I needed to save those so I could buy recharges so I could keep going. If you don't know, Pokemon Quest is one of those time-limited resource games, so you'll get 5 batteries to run on missions a day, and once you've used them up, you have to wait 30 minutes to get each new battery back. So what I would do is I would spend all my points on resetting this every day so I could get as many turns in as possible. But back to the shiny hunt. So as I kept getting more and more Pokemon, I would just sacrifice all of them to Pikachu. What this does is you train your Pokemon against whatever Pokemon you have in your box. It gets more experience, levels up, gets stronger. The other ones are now gone forever though. Basically, you find yourself constantly replacing your team with a new team every couple of days to a week so that you can keep having stronger and stronger Pokemon. Except for me, none of this would ever really matter. I was trying to get the shiny Pokemon still. So eventually I evolved my Pikachu into a Raichu, and then I decided to focus on using the normal recipe. I chose this because 1, it's cheap. It can be done in 2 turns or 2 missions, and it would give me a Pidgey, Rattata, Meowth, Spearow, or something like that. So my thought was that those would be versatile. And I was lucky. November 12th, I managed to get myself a shiny Meowth that I just somehow didn't even notice. I didn't figure it out until I got a quest reward saying that I had got a shiny Pokemon, and then I just panicked and poured through my box trying to find it. Luckily, I did find him. He was still there, and I hadn't sacrificed him yet. It's just a very hard shiny to see. It's only the tip of the tail and the tip of the toes that change a little bit of color, and not even to a weird color. It goes from like an orange to a reddish color. But now at this point, I had my starter Pokemon. I was able to sacrifice everything to it, including my Raichu, and I was also able to start picking up those stones and equipping them. So I was excited. I was finally able to start clearing the first area of the game. But after 1 or 2 levels, I hit my first wall. My first wall since getting my first Pokemon. See, the game is designed to be played with a team of 3. One Pokemon can easily get outnumbered, even if it is overleveled, and still lose fights. It was clear to me that I was going to need at least 1 more shiny Pokemon just to get out of the starting zone. So I went back to the grind and kept making soup after soup after soup. And only a few days later on the 15th, I was able to get a shiny Spearow. This one really excited me. The boss for the first zone is a Eradicate that's pretty tough. I struggled the first couple times to beat him, but I kept doing that normal pot because when you sacrifice a Pokemon of the same type or the exact same type of Pokemon, you get bonus experience. So every time I would get a new Meowth, my old one would gain a level. Every time I would get another Spearow, my Spearow would gain a level. Eventually, my 2 Pokemon were strong enough, and I beat the first zone of the game. Moving on, this challenge started to actually feel doable. Now again, it was only a few days later after this that I managed to get my shiny Vulpix. It's crazy looking back now that I got all 3 of these within a week of each other. Now with my whole team together, I was able to really just start cooking through these levels. I beat the second zone and I unlocked a better pot. The pots are important in this game and I've done a whole video on those you guys can watch on the channel. But basically, the better the pot, the higher level Pokemon, but also the higher base stats of a Pokemon. I also around this time evolved my Spearow and then evolved my Meowth, and then I started focusing on making the fire and the red pot soup so that I could get what I needed for my Vulpix and eventually evolve Vulpix into what is possibly one of the best looking shinies in the entire series. This blue silver Vulpix is my favorite thing I got out of this run. With 3 evolved Pokemon, I was able to beat the 3rd area, and at this point I started looking towards the future. I bought myself the Blastoise ornament to increase the amount of blue drops I would get. I had this idea that I needed a good water type on my team, like a Squirtle or a Poliwrath or a Starmie or something like that. The next couple of weeks were not that exciting. I just kept working through all the different zones with my same team of 3, never pulling another shiny. None of them were all that challenging though, and usually when I would get stuck, I would just grind for 2 or 3 days, and then I would come back and I would beat whatever level I was stuck on. After opening up the last 3 zones, I started to hit a serious wall. Some of them I couldn't even beat the first level of the zone and I didn't really know what to do. So I started to share the knowledge I did have and make more videos for this channel and share recipe videos so that players could find all the Pokemon they wanted to. And that kind of kept me satisfied for a while through the grind. Once I got through the initial levels of each zone, I got to the bosses. The first boss problem that I had was Nidoking and Nidoqueen. You have to fight them together and I was stuck on this one for a week straight. Just this same fight over and over again. But I did eventually beat it. After that, I had to fight Gengar. And Gengar was especially tough because you have to fight it along with 3 Ghastlies. And oh my god, this might be the hardest fight in the game for my team. We just had nothing that we could do against it. I ended up skipping it and going to the final zone boss, which is Gyarados. Gyarados actually wasn't that hard, and after a couple of days, I had it on grind and I was getting the best stones in the game and powering up my Pokemon quite a bit. Then I ended up going back and finally beating Gengar. With all of that done, I was able to open up the final secret zone of the game. A new island raises from the sea and a mysterious voice challenges you to a battle. I jumped right into it, already knowing that I was about to fight Mewtwo. It was close. It was a very close fight, but Mewtwo has an attack that can wipe out a lot of Pokemon in one hit, and that's just what he did. So I had to go back to the drawing board a little bit. I looked at my team and noticed that they didn't all have their equip slots available. Each Pokemon can have up to 9 of these slots, and they open up as you level up your Pokemon. In my case though, some of them had 1 or 2 spots still to go, so I knew I was going to have to take them all the way to level 100. Cue another long grind. So I kept on fighting Gyarados over and over again, and even a few times I fought the Rare Dragonite event, which gives you better rewards, or at least I think it does. I always had very good luck with it. Ninetales was the last of my team to reach level 100. When she reached level 100, I checked my quest rewards and I had 10 rainbow matter for reaching level 100 on a Pokemon. After that, I decided it was time for a rematch. Again, it was close, but this time I finally won and I got to watch the credits roll. And that was the challenge complete, but I still wasn't completely satisfied, so I decided to dabble in the post-game a little bit. I managed to fight a Zapdos and open up 2 or 3 levels of the post-game zone, but I just got hard stuck. Using the Pokemon from the original first pot of the game, I just wasn't able to compete at that top level. They just didn't have the stats for it. So now I can't decide if I want to push this challenge further, and honestly, it'll probably be based on the feedback I get on this video. If you enjoyed this video, do me a favor, put your favorite shiny Pokemon in the comments, and then go watch another one of my videos and see if I have something else that you enjoy.